Alright, I made a little bit of progress on this. I've been sick for a while, so I wasn't able to get a whole lot done, but I got this little laundry list I want to get through. So first order of business is I want to add mouse control support. So basically, if I don't want to be using my arrow keys, then I can use my keyboard and mouse together. So what I would need for that is a reticle. So basically I would have a reticle on the screen, and that would point my ship to where I want to shoot. But that's a completely different type of input from just getting a vector based on the arrow keys or a stick. So what I would need to do is project a ray from the camera onto the y=0 plane and get that point in space, and then figure out a vector between that point and the ship and use that as the z basis. So I'm going to need a reference to the camera. I'm going to need a variable to hold the mouse input. I'm going to move this up because this is related to shooting. In fact, this is all related to shooting, so I want to organize these variables a little bit. There's the editable parameters. Here are shooting, and then mouse control, and reticle. So what I'll need is a ready bar camera, reference to the camera, equals get root dot get tree dot root dot get camera. That way I can do the ray projection. I'm gonna need an actual reticle. So let me go ahead and make that. It's gonna be sprite 3D. Sprite 3D. Call this reticle. And I have a little PNG here. Drag that in. But you'll see it doesn't draw itself on top of everything like I want it to. So I'm going to put a material override, make a new spatial shader. I wonder if, no, I do need to put the reticle in. I need to put the PNG in both the material and in the sprite itself. Then give it some flags. It needs to be transparent, needs to be unshaded, and no depth test. That's what makes it draw on top of everything. See, it's cutting through there, and no depth test makes it draw on top. I also need to make this respect the scale. So we'll go under parameters, billboard keep scale. Actually, billboard I need to enable. That way it's just going to face the camera, and then keep scale. So that way I can make this a little bit bigger. And there's my reticle. So now I need a reference to that. Reticle. There we go. So I need to update the position of this whenever I have a mouse movement. And then I also need a var mouse to hold the input event mouse data whenever I have mouse input. And then I want to have mouse dirty. And this variable is just going to decide frame by frame whether or not I have mouse movement input. So unhandled input event. So this will fire every time I have an input event. And then if the event is input event mouse motion, that means if I moved the mouse this frame, then I want to have the mouse equal the event, and that'll contain the position. Mouse dirty equals true, and then reticle.visible equals true. See, what I want to have is when I move the mouse, then the reticle pops up, and when I give the player some input other than the mouse, I want the reticle to disappear. And then I also want to update the position. Well, no, I need to do that in the on every frame. So in here, this is a little section that determines whether or not I have input that frame, and I want to make this actually dependent on whether or not I have mouse movement. So if mouse dirty, then do mouse stuff. Otherwise, if I have input of another kind, then I'll take that input. I'll set my reticle to be invisible. Put some space in there. All right. So the mouse stuff I need to do is I need to get the position, which means using the camera dot project position, and then I'll take the mouse dot position, which I populated in the mouse event, and then the second argument is going to be the depth. Yeah, project position, and then the second argument is depth. And the depth for how far the ray needs to go is going to be just the camera's height. So camera.global transform origin.y. This is the point in space. And then I need to set the reticle to be there. And then I need to get the vector from where the reticle is to where the player is. So global transform origin is where the player is minus the reticle. Actually, I want to normalize that. There. And I am setting the reticle visible, right? Yeah. Alright, so when I have a mouse movement, then the reticle pops up and the mouse dirty becomes true, and then, oh, I need to set mouse dirty equals false, because this frame's mouse movement event has been dealt with. Alright, that should be all I need. And now I have a mouse moving reticle. And then I can use the arrow keys, and it makes my reticle disappear. Let me turn my controller on. There we go, that still works. And then whenever I move the mouse, the reticle pops back up. Ooh, that's weird. I need to also add the mouse button to the input map. There we go. Alright. So that was mouse movement. Oops. I'll just leave that there. And then I need to fix something in the Flotsam script I had. So let me go into there. I want to change this from checking whether or not a Flotsam is in view from being every frame to just being whenever the timer times out. So let me yoink that and get rid of the process. And then change this to an else. And basically what this will do is I'm no longer checking whether I'm in frame every single frame, but just when I time out. So if I am in view, then reset the timer, otherwise die, because this is the timer's function. So now I need an initial kill timeout, which I'm just going to leave at 5 right now. I think I was testing this at 15, but that's just too long. And then in my ready function, I need to go ahead and call timer start initial kill timeout, and that starts the timer. This will fire after the initial timeout, which I can adjust if this doesn't work out, and that'll be separate from the kill timeout, which will start happening, I guess, if it's in view. The reason I want to change it this way is because if something spawns off camera and then it never gets in camera, previously it would just exist forever. This way, it'll check after 5 seconds or whatever I set the initial timeout to, and then if it's not in frame by then, it'll go ahead and die. Alright. And then I also want to make the nuggy a flotsam. Let me go to nuggies. Make that flotsam, and then I need to actually give it a mesh. So let me go into my nuggy.tscn. So instead of having this stupid little box, I'm going to replace this. I don't want to rename that. I made a mesh down here, nug.glb, yeah, open anyway. So I made this exactly the same way that I made the asteroid in Blender, except it's gold. And if I could stop flying around here. I noticed that I was doing something kind of silly. I was always saving branch as seen, and I don't know, maybe for some meshes that might make sense, but I discovered that I can just click the mesh resource in the mesh instance and save this out. and I can call it nug.mesh. And now down here in my Explorer, I have this nug.mesh, and obviously the file extension here is not a TSCN, which might be a little confusing because this is just this asteroid TSCN. This is just a mesh, but it has the extension of a scene, whereas this is just a mesh and it has the extension of mesh, which makes a lot more sense. So let me close the GLB here, go into my Nuggy rigid body and go into the mesh instance and load the nug.mesh, and it even has a little thumbnail. Boom. Oh, and then I need to reset the scale and make the collision shape match this a little bit better. And actually what I want to do is hold both of those. I want to make this a little bit bigger, so just scale it up. There. And the next thing I need is I need to set the physics material. So in the rigid body for the mesh, or for the Nuggy, I want to give it a mass of like, I think we can leave the mass there. But I do want to get rid of the friction, because I'm going to have some of these spawn on top of each other, and when I do that, they would mess up their ability to spread out if they have friction. So by removing friction, they're able to spread out a little bit better. Now, obviously, Nuggies come from asteroids, so this would be the next thing I need to fix. I discovered that having rigid bodies as children of another rigid body is a really bad idea, and that's why I was getting those weird results where they wouldn't spawn in the right way. I even had occasions where I noticed that they were like offset from the whole thing, and then when I had this spinning around in space, the nugs were affixed with an offset like that, and then when I deleted the asteroid, the nugs just kind of hung out in space wherever they were. So let's not do that. Oops. Undo switch scene tab. Okay, cool. I need to get rid of all these Nuggies as rigid bodies and replace them with just the mesh instance. So let me grab the mesh, nug.mesh, and just drop that in there. There. Set this transform back. Now I want to zoom in and just kind of place a bunch of these around. So I'm going to do that real quick and I'll be right back. Alright, I got like 8 of them. It's kind of hard to place them around so that they'll be visible from every angle, but whatever. I think that'll be good enough. So now that these are just meshes, I don't have to worry about any kind of rigid body weirdness. Yeah, it looks like I'm kind of jumping down to my asteroid stuff here. But now I need to fix the way that these are spawned. I actually, let's see, where's the asteroid? I actually had a seg fault to where this was crashing the game. I tried exporting the project, and whenever I shot an asteroid that didn't have any nugs on it, it would seg fault. And I found out that it's because up here, I'm setting this nugs variable to equal the node named nugs. And then when I don't have any nugs, I delete that node. But the problem is this variable still has the memory address for that node, and then I'm referencing it here. So I'm also looping through it. I'm trying to access a method on this pointer to nowhere. So what I need to do is make a hasnugs. Make a hasnugs boolean and then set that to hasnugs equals false when I don't have nugs, and then just check that if hasnugs. Alright, the other thing I want to do is I don't want the asteroid to delete itself when it hits the player anymore. So the player is a kinematic body, so if body is rigid body and hasnugs, so the bullet is a rigid body and the bullet is not flotsam. So the bullet will trigger this, and if it has nugs, then it will do all of this. And I need to change everything that's in here. So this is just unparenting and reparenting. So what I need to do is change that to spawning a new nug. I'm going to do, oh, that means I need a reference to export packed scene, nug scene. And I realize I can do this instead of exporting a resource and then loading that. I can just export the packed scene. So let me go into my asteroid. Do I have an error? Oh, yeah. On line 3. Oh, here. var. I need the var keyword. There we go. On line 21, expected identifier. Oh. So let me just erase that for now. There we go. Method failed. Still failed. Oh, never mind. Alright. So now I have nug scene field. I can drag in the nuggy actor. And that will let me spawn that in. Our nug rigid body equals nug scene dot instance. Oh, what does it want now? Doesn't have a set type in line 20. Oh, I guess I can't do that. So now that I have the instance, I'm going to add it to the root. Get tree root add child nug rigid body, and now I have this spot, so I can set nug rigid body dot global transform dot origin equals spot dot origin. And the reason I'm just grabbing the origin is because I don't want to also grab like the rotation, and especially I don't want to grab the scale. So if I happen to go in here and if I want to make these like a little bit bigger, I can just go into the transform and scale them up a little bit. But if I spawn them and I copy the entire transform, then the nugs are going to be twice as big. So I just want to take the origin, and I also want to make sure spot.origin.y equals 0. And then the last thing I want to do, now that they're spawned in and they're placed correctly, I want to give them a little bit of a force. So I'm going to say impulse vector 3 equals nug.translation.normalized. This will give me the direction that the nug is from the center of the asteroid, because translation is an object's local coordinates with regard to its parent node. In this case, it's this nug's node. So that will give me the direction that it is from the center of the asteroid. And I want to multiply that by the body's linear velocity. So the body in this case is going to be a bullet, because the body has to be rigid body. And I actually want to change this. Is bullet. So let me go into the bullet and change this to class name bullet. Where was I? Was I in asteroid? Oh, yeah. Okay. So now if it's hitting a bullet and it has nugs. Alright. And then I also want to get a little bit of a torque. Equal. I'm just going to give it a random. Give it a random vector 3. And I don't even need to worry about anything else. Nah, I'm just going to leave it completely random. Does it? I don't know if it actually needs... if it needs to be normalized or not. So let me look at that method real quick. The add torque impulse. Apply torque impulse. Let's see. This will rotate the body around the impulse vector passed. I don't think that needs to be normalized. I think the bigger the vector is, the bigger the torque will be. Cool. So I don't need to worry about that being normalized. And then I can do nug.rb.apply impulse vector 3.0, because this is with respect to the nug itself. Just from the center of it, go in the direction of the impulse. and then apply torque impulse, torque, there, and then delete itself. Oh, the other thing I need to make sure of is that this is just going to delete itself when it hits anything that's not flotsam, which I don't want. I want to stop deleting myself when I hit the player. So I actually want this to be its own if statement. Change this to if, and then have all of this indented. So now this is under that. So now it will no longer delete itself on contact with the player. And it's also spawning the nugs correctly. I also wanted to parameterize the random y-axis locking, which I actually got wrong in here. So this is to lock it to the y-plane, and that's the opposite of the 20%. I want 80% of them to be locked to the y-plane. So they should lock when the random f is greater than 20%. And in fact, I want to change that to change this into chance. Yeah, chance of depth. I'll export float. Give it a range of 0 to 1, or chance of depth, and then chance of nugs equals 10%. All right, so now I can change this. And again, this condition is if my random is outside of the percentage of chance of having nugs, then delete the nugs. And the percentage of chance of having nugs is 10%. So if the random is greater than the chance of nugs, then delete the nugs. And then the last thing I want to do is, if I do have nugs, I actually want to have a random amount of nugs between 1 and 8. So I want to do for I in random integer modulo by nugs.get children.size. So what this is going to do is for a random number of my children, it's going to count upwards from 0. So I will get the nug, or nugs.get children, with the index of nug. I actually want nug for nug. There. Dot q free. Alright. So what this is going to do is iterate. This is just going to be an integer counting from 0 to something. From 0 to anywhere, all the way up to as many as the number of children that I actually have. So it could be 0 to 2, it could be 0 to 8, but 0 to something, just delete that child and go through them one at a time. So let's say that it only gets up to 3, so this will delete from the children array. It'll delete index 1 and then index 2, or index 0, then 1, then 2, then 3, or however many. So that's why I have to index it this way. Because if I just call nug.queue_free, that doesn't mean anything, because nug is an integer in this loop, as opposed to this loop, which is just getting the actual nug in the children. This returns the array of the children themselves, whereas this returns the number of children, not the children themselves. Anyway, that should work. That's not working. 23 bullet isn't declared in the current scope. I totally declared it, you son of a bitch. Bullet. Oh, I think I need to restart the editor, or just run the project, see what happens. Nope, it's not gonna run. Where's the, there it is. So what I need to do is reboot the editor. Save everything, restart the editor, and now it should work. There we go. The reason I had to restart it is because whenever you do a class name declaration, doesn't always actually get it. Invalid type in function start. Let's see, flotsam on timer timeout. Flotsam timer timeout. What line is that? Line 26. Timer. Where is that? Oh, it's totally valid. What do you mean? That hasn't happened before. Invalid type in function start. Can I convert argument 1 from nil to float? Okay, I think I see what's happening. Something was flotsam, and when it got deleted, oh no, wait a minute, I know what happened. Ah, no, stop. There, okay. So I think it was in the asteroid. Kill timeout 0. Let's reset that to 5. I think that's the problem. And then I want to make sure the Nuggy has, yeah, kill timeout is set correctly. Those are the only two things that are flotsam. So that now that should work. So whenever you have a new thing that has a class declaration on it, like this, for some reason it breaks some of the inspector set variables. Like this kill timeout was 0, which I think implies nil, and then the timer on this flotsam was looking for kill timeout's value, but kill timeout at that point was nil for some reason. So it was hitting, it was hitting this line, but kill timeout was nil, and you can't feed a nil to a method that expects an integer. So resetting kill timeout to 5 should have fixed the problem. Yep, okay, things are working. Oh, there's something with nugs, and they did not spawn. So I've got a bug. Let me set the chance of nugs up real quick to just 1. Make everything have nugs on it. Make sure they spawn. They do. Okay. Well, it's for some reason they're not spawning right away, or they're not spawning all of them right off the bat, but oops. They actually are eventually. I'm not sure why that happens, but run the game a little bit and then eventually they all start working. Yeah. All right, so I actually want to add some debug here. Let me go into my asteroid, and I want to, whenever I have nugs, I want to print nugs.getChildren dot size, and then I also want to print how many spawn. Yeah, so let me move this down here, and then I want to say bar nug count equals 0, nug count plus equals 1, and then nug count. So that will tell me if I'm actually getting the number of nugs I should be. 1 1 6 6. Okay, so the code is running correctly. Maybe they were just like overlapping each other a little bit and looking like not all of them were spawning. Yeah, because all these numbers are matching, so I can get rid of those lines. Where is that? So that's working. I did that. I fixed the seg fault. I did not set the mass yet. Asteroid mass 30. And then for the spawner, since I just changed the mass, the spawner is going to be not giving them enough impulse. So let me go into, oops, oh damn it. Open that in the right window. The spawner, there. Whenever I spawn this, I'm going to need to multiply that by spawn.mass. And then I actually want to make sure that this is a rigid body, so that spawn actually has a mass value. And that should allow them to continue spawning. That didn't work. Oops. Where am I calling nug count? Oh, there. Delete that line there. And now they should be spawning as normal. Okay. But now they have a mass of 30. See? When they hit me, they don't bounce off as much. And the reason I wanted them to have more mass was because when I have a bunch of nugs, I don't want the nugs to be able to block the asteroids. And the other problem is my bullets. I want to make those delete themselves. Yeah, so I have, fixed bullets here. We go into my bullet. I actually want to get rid of this fire, because I don't want to be calling fire from the player. The player doesn't need to be concerned with the implementation of the bullet. So I want to change this to on ready, which means I go into the player script. Where's the ship script 7? And I can take out this b.fire. And the important thing here is that I'm adding it to the tree after I give it the transform. And that's significant because if I were to give it if I were to apply the transform after I add it to the tree, adding it to the tree calls ready, and that would call apply impulse on the basis of my current transform, whatever the transform is when it gets added to the tree. So I need to make sure I continue putting the transform where it needs to be before I add it to the tree, so that by the time the bullet calls its ready function, it has the appropriate transform. All right, where am I? Bullet. There we go. I also want to delete the bullet whenever it hits something. So let me go add that on. I also want to rename it plasma round. Q free. And then I need to set that signal up. So let me go into my bullet scene. And I actually want to get rid of this timer too, so I can parameterize this wait time and give it an arbitrary length, because I want to, like I put, since I made this a class, I can now make derivatives of a bullet, and I want to expose a timer parameter on all of them. So let me get rid of this node and make that with code instead. Timer.new, and then set that up in, actually I'll just do that in the ready function as well. Add child timer, timer.wait time equals kill timeout, which I need to declare up here, export float var kill timeout. Actually, I'll make that lifetime. And then connect the signal. There. Now, plasma round. Now lifetime has a parameter there. I also want to change this mass to like 0.2. And then in my impulse, I'll do that last. Times force times mass. And that way that still fires out at the appropriate speed. And now it deletes itself. Oh, no, I need to connect the signal. So let me enable contact monitoring. I probably only need one. And then go into the node on body entered. And then set that to on plasma round. This is the one that I already defined. And that's this here. And why didn't you rename yourself? There we go. So now I can make other objects of type bullet. Like I can make a new scene and inherit the bullet properties. And since I declared this timer in code, now I have this parameter. I can set the lifetime to be whatever I want. Oh, and then I need to start the timer. I probably don't need to set that if I just call that here. There we go. And now they should delete. Yep. Whoops. All right. So that was bullets. I did the asteroids already. I fixed the nuggies already. And then the last thing I want to do is fix the spawner. So in the spawner, I want to give this a spread as well. And that's related to the radius. So basically, instead of shooting directly at the center of the spawner, or in this case, right at the player, I want to make them aim just a little bit around that spot. So equals vector 3 equals position plus vector 3. No, actually, I just want to keep this related to itself. So I'm not going to add position to it. Randif minus 0.5, 0, 0. Randif minus 0.5. And I don't want to normalize it, but I do want to multiply it by a lerp between 0 and spread by randif. So that will give me a randomly lengthed vector in a random direction. And then when I apply the impulse, the goal is going to be this plus the spread. Actually, it'll be minus. Oops. Minus the position plus spread. There. This defines some random point. Oh no, it's not that. It is this. Plus spread. There we go. So this, the position of the spawner plus the spread, is the target. And I want to come at that target from the spawn position. And that's my direction. Alright, and that should work. And then I also want to give it a max count. So what I can do here is, oops. Export int var max count equals 500. And basically this will limit the number of instances that this spawner can create so that I don't end up just completely flooding the whole scene. And I'll keep track of that. So every time I make a spawn, I'm going to increment count. And then I need to add spawn.connect tree exited, I think, to self on spawn despawn. And then I'll declare a new function in here on spawn despawn count minus equals 1. So that'll decrement the count every time one of my spawns depletes. And this way, if my count is greater than or equal to max count, don't do anything. There. Now I can go back to my spawner and we should see a spread, and we don't. What's going on here? Parse error on line 28. Oh. Because I'm multiplying a vector by a float, it doesn't know which type. Alright, that works. Now I have a spread and a radius and a force. I want to set this force up to like 30. and then I have a max count. Let's test that. Actually, I want to double check that I set the right signal up. This would be on node. And signals, let's see. Tree exited, that's what I want. Emitted after the node exit this tree and is no longer active. And that was there, okay. That should work. Let me go ahead and test that. So we should only see one asteroid at a time. Now it makes another one. Alright, cool. Now I have a hard limit on the number of asteroids I can have. I'll just set that back to 500. I don't think I've actually seen a case where I have 500 of them, but I just want to have assurance that there's some kind of a limit. Yeah, some of these are not dropping their gold. I'm not sure why that is. But after a while, it seems like they all work. It's like I have to move a little bit first and then they start dropping their gold. That's a really weird bug. I have no idea why that's happening. Maybe we'll find out and maybe we'll just leave it in as a feature. Because the way I plan to set this game up, the player will have to start moving around before any asteroids start spawning. I think that's my laundry list for now. So what do? We added mouse controls. We fixed the flotsam so that it only checks on timeout. We added an initial kill. We fixed the nuggies. We made them flotsam. We gave them a mesh, set their friction to 0. We fixed the bullets. We gave them a smaller mass. We made them delete themselves when they hit asteroids. We put their firing in the ready so that I don't have to call a fire method from my player anymore. It just handles itself. We also set the timer so that it would be parameterized in code, so I don't have to make a timer node scene. I fixed the asteroid. It doesn't delete itself when it hits players. Using meshes for the nuggies instead of rigid bodies, I set the mass up. I fixed the seg fault when the nug children were counted. I parameterized the nug. Oh, actually, I don't think I did. That's something I'm missing. Let me go back into asteroid. Damn it. Go back into asteroid and the right window. All right. Chance of depth, chance of nugs. I did parameterize those. So, I also want to add a int 1 to 3 bar nug multiplier. So what this will do is repeat this loop for I in nug multiplier. Oops. Damn it. Nug multiplier. There we go. So this will just actually repeat this loop for the multiplier that we set. So I could potentially set this to 3, and then I will get 3 times as many nugs as the actual asteroid contains. But I'm going to keep that as 1 for now. And I kind of want to change these. Oops. I want to change the name of these. There. Depth RNG. Nug RNG. There. Just a little bit more clear name. Well, clear to me. I don't know if it's really clear. Let's see. Yeah, depth and nug. Alright, nug multiplier. I want the nug RNG to be, 10%. Actually, let's see what happens when we give every asteroid will have nugs, and we'll set the nug multiplier to 3. We'll just make this a super crazy bonus mode temporarily. See how many nugs? Look at all those nugs. Yeah. So that's working. They're all, the nugs are spewing out appropriately. Alright. I don't think they're colliding with the asteroids. Let me fix that. Nuggy. It should be in the collision layer. Am I colliding with asteroids? No, I'm not. Alright. There. Collide with asteroids. Oh, and then I don't want the asteroids to delete nugs. Are they? I don't think they are. Okay, no. But they are pushing them around, so now I can have like this flowing sea of gold. Look at that. It's beautiful. And I kind of want to make them a little bit bigger. So we grab these. There we go. They're a little bit more visible that way. Alright. So, I think that's everything I wanted to do for right now. Obviously, I still can't die. That'd be the next thing to do. So, my next major tasks, I think, are going to be make myself die. And update this model. This is a really shitty looking ship model. I need to make a new one. And that'll be later. Okay, I think I figured out why some of the nugs weren't spawning. It's because I'm introducing the nug into the tree before I set the origin spot. So on the very first frame, some of them are at 0, 0, which is also where my player was when I was having that bug. So they were immediately colliding with the player and getting collected, or, well, I don't have collection yet, so they were just getting deleted. So if I actually take that and set their position before I add them to the tree, then perhaps that bug will be fixed. Yay! Looks like sometimes I'm not capable of deleting the asteroid, but I guess that's fine. I mean, it looked like my bullet was hitting the asteroid, and it was not killing the asteroid. So let me set this nug multiplier back, and this one back to 10%. Because I fixed the bugs. Okay, yep. There we go. Now the nugs are spawning correctly every single time. And yeah, okay, so that was the bug. Oh no, that one flies off into the distance. So it's really just a matter of being mindful of the order of operations here. I just had to make sure that the nug would never be at 0, 0 when the player is, before it has a chance to put itself where it's supposed to be in the world. Oh, what did I do? Okay, that seems fine. That's a bug fixed, and I think that's all I've got for now.